Welcome to the Bloody Aussie Battler podcast with your host, Mike Holt. Okay, we're back again, and I've got Dick back here in the studio with me. Dick, when we finished our last chat, we were going to talk about how the Australia Act and the states have colluded to create a treasonous local government. But before we get into that, can you explain to us what acts they have actually changed to enable all of this treason?
Yeah, when at the end, like sort of when they created their own parliaments in 1973 under the Royal Styles and Titles Act and their proclamation and gazette, that took out all our rights. Like from that point forward, under Elizabeth R, the political party's Queen of Australia, she does not hold the common law of England, King James Bible, Magna Carta, Bill of Rights, habeas corpus, all those things. We lost the whole lot from them. That's why we have no rights today whatsoever. We're, as like I've explained before, we're just abstract entities in their system.
And that's why when we go, because under common law, we are entitled to be judged before a jury of our peers.
Oh.
And yet when we're dragged into court these days, there's no jury. All we have is a star chamber where we're convicted willy-nilly because the magistrate decides we're guilty. Where's the justice in that?
There's no justice in any court in Australia at the present time, and the political parties Australia. We've got to go back to our Australia and our Commonwealth, the Commonwealth of Australia, and have our Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act back in, where a proper Governor-General appoints a judiciary for the federal courts, and proper governors of the states appoint their judiciary to keep this in the state courts, to keep the separation of powers. Because the political parties, after they gained their own parliament and everything, all outside the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act, even though they leave all those parts in there, they created certain laws to screw us over and to enforce their system. And those people that they put into those places just screw us out, because you go into court and the judge sits below the Royal Coat of Arms. You think you're sitting in a proper court, but you're not. And I was in court when David Walters handed up a deed of grant, original deed of grant, and the judge said, I cannot look at that in this court. Now that tells you that that judge knew exactly what he was about. He wasn't in a court of Crown law or common law, in the court of a separation of powers. He was just a political party appointed piece of shit.
Mm.
Now the acts that they created, they had the Seals and Submerged Lands Act. That minister can make the land wherever he wants and make the sea wherever he wants. So we're sitting in this maritime system of law.
Oh, that's where the Admiralty law comes from.
Because he can draw up a drawing, he can make a dot on the table, and the rest of Australia is underwater.
Gotcha.
Then you go to the Lands Acquisition Act of 1973. These are all these couple of 1973 acts. This act is where they took the Governor-General out of the lands, controlling the lands, and put the minister. That's total treason. But then they owned the Governor-General. Then you go to the Statute Law Revision Act. This, I think, is about 115 pages off memory in that act. That's where they took all our Commonwealth out and put their Australia in. There's 115 odd pages in that act of just zunk. One act only has a couple of lines, and they've just changed the definition through into their system. Then there must have been a few that they missed out, because they made another one in 1974 and backdated it to the date of when the other Lands Acquisition, the other Statute Law Revision Act was put in, and they enacted both of them on the 31st of December 1973. That's how low these bastards go. Everybody's worried about the family, Christmas, all this sort of thing, and those bastards are still
in Parliament.
Well, they weren't in Parliament, but that's when they enacted it through. So nobody was taking any notice of everything. Then you have the Federal Court of Australia. That's under Federal Court of Australia. The word Australia is there. It's under their system. You got the Family Court of Australia. That's all under their system. That's why this family courts a lot of people are having a hell of a lot of trouble with these family courts.
Mm.
And in Western Australia, I heard on the news there, on the radio earlier this morning there, that they were having a hell of a time there. And the judges are on leave, and then there's not enough judges, and people, unless it's a very urgent case, they're not even bothered to hear it. You've got the Federal Court of Australia Act. You know, they created their own federal court. Then you've got the Australian Federal Police. The first thing they did was remove the Commonwealth Police.
Mm.
So, and they put it under their definition of Australian Federal Police, Australian Federal Police. That's their Australia. All this system is going forward. And then you turn around and you got the High Court of Australia Act in 1979. Now that's a real beauty, because in our Commonwealth Australia Constitution Act, Section 71, judicial power and courts. The judicial power of the Commonwealth shall be vested in a federal Supreme Court to be called the High Court of Australia. Now people think, oh, well, we've got the High Court of Australia, but it's under their definition.
Mm.
They are so low. If you dig to their low, where they are, you'd be coming out in China on the other side of the world. Now, under the political party's private High Court, it's created under the Queen of Australia, Great Seal of Australia, and the Governor-General of Australia, all with Australia. It doesn't matter whether it's the Queen of the Commonwealth, it still be under their Australia, because it all boils down to the same definitions that they've changed in 1973, creating their whole system. And I did a bit of check one time, and the last judge that was supposed to be separate in the separation of powers, I think finished up in 1977. Because when you go back on it, the High Court of Australia and the Supreme Courts and the Federal Court are supposed to be the guardians of our Constitution. That means the Commonwealth Australia Constitution Act, as well as all the state constitutions. They're the guardians. Where the hell have they been?
Mm.
You know, these people are really two-faced pieces of shit. Then, as I was saying before, they sit as a quorum.
That's a C-O-R-U-M, not a
C-O-R-A-M.
Oh, C-O-R-A-M.
Yeah, that's...
But I always understood quorum to be Q-U-O-R-A-M, right?
Yeah, but that's a number of people you have to have for a meeting or something like that.
Right.
But even they don't abide by that, because when they put some of these money things through Parliament, they just race them through the Senate and only had a few people there to agree to it and raced out the door again.
Yes.
So the High Court and all courts in this country at the present time are sitting as a quorum, because in Cable, the High Court told all state courts, you can't have a common law other than this common law of Australia. It's not necessarily the common law of England. So they changed the system around, and they put all the courts in Australia under the High Court of Australia, the political party's High Court of Australia. This is the courts enforcing political party treason.
So, in other words, they've created their own common law Australia, and yet our Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act 1901 is our proper English common law, which we are still part of.
And if you go into clause 5, which they don't recognise because it binds us all, that stipulates in there that the common law which you can't change.
Mm.
And if you go through the Commonwealth Australia Constitution Act, it's full of common law all the way through, and it starts off with the seal at the top. The Royal Coat of Arms, that's a common law document from that point forward. Mm. And now they're using that seal on different court cases as treason because they're not under it. So it's total fraud. And when judiciary are doing it, that's treason. Absolutely. And knowingly doing it, that's even worse again.
If you're enjoying these podcasts on the bloodyausiebattler.com, why not become a member to support my work? It's easy. Just click on Join Us and choose the membership level that suits your pocket.
Dick, before we go any further, I'd like to read out from our Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act 1901, Clause 5, because you've mentioned it a few times. So Clause 5, this Act and all laws made by the Parliament of the Commonwealth under the Constitution shall be binding on the courts, judges and people of every state and of every part of the Commonwealth, notwithstanding anything in the laws of any state. Now, you've got some explanation there from the annotated version.
Yeah, now, the last part of what you just said, the laws of any state, that locks in our common law. That locks in the common law so far as applicable and not modified by colonial or state legislation. In other words, they can't change it.
Right.
It's stuck there.
Hmm.
And you go into, in 1988, just after the first Mabo case, they changed, because he couldn't win with common law. So they changed the common law to common law in Australia, in their definition of Australia. Then when they run Mabo 2 I think it was 1992, they run Mabo 2, they used 5 different common laws to get that through.
Australian common laws.
Australian common law of this. They just created 5 different common laws. That just shows you how corrupt our judicial system is.
Right,
when we only have one common law in this country.
Right. You've mentioned the Mabo case a few times in our chats. Can you, because I wasn't here, I don't know what happened. Can you explain what that was and what was it all about?
It was basically over the ownership of the islands. I just can't visualize which island now, but Eddie Mabo went to court because they claimed they owned the land, and the court said, no, you don't. Under common law, you don't. So then it went through and they changed common law of England to common law in Australia through the Judiciary Act 1903, and all the sort of, they changed it outside the Constitution, but that changes the Constitution as well. So therefore, they're acting in treason by doing it, because they're changing the Constitution at the same time, but not changing the wording in there. They're still, because the word in there is not common law as in the wording, but it's in the way they write it. And that's how you go into the annotated Constitution to work out what the phrases mean. And when they changed in 1988, they changed common law of England, which took all our rights out again, where we never had any at that time anyway, but they took them out and they put in common law in Australia, under their Australia, and in their Australia's, hey, you can do whatever you want then, because there's no common law. And the courts, I can remember watching the court cases in the news. At that time, I used to watch the news, I don't now, but they would be waltzing into court, and there'd be bloody a whole big line of these clowns with the wigs on their head, whole big lines of them walking in. They just screamed money out of that court case. I'm pretty sure at that time Eddie had died, but then they got the ownership of the land through that system, which is only under the Queen of Australia, which is not worth the paper it's written on, neither is the court case worth the paper it's written on. So, well,
you know, this just makes me wonder, why aren't the original people coming in with us under common law to fight against all of this? I mean, okay, the original people have their own common law, but at the same time, they are all, they do under their tribal law, but they are all members of the Commonwealth of Australia, whether they like it or not. We are all in this together. So our original people should be joining together with us under common law to fight back, to get their own rights and freedoms back as well. They have tribal law. We've got no problem with tribal law. In fact, I think it's a great thing that they have. But that's what their version of common law is. But we have a bigger law now in Australia. That is the Australian Constitution. And we're all under that. So I think
we're bound.
You're all bound by that. Yes, that's the word. So we're all bound by the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act 1901. We have a common interest in getting back to that.
Basically, yeah, we have a common interest getting back to that, because one law fits all. This idea of having another law here and another law there for that and another law for that, It's got to be one law fits all, and that's all it's ever been since we got the Commonwealth Australia Constitution Act.
Right. And I don't know if you remember a few years ago, I was very active in opposing Islam in Australia for that very reason, because Islam wanted to impose Sharia law in Australia. That is not our law, and they cannot come into Australia and do that. It's that simple.
It's not so much against Muslims, it's against the system that
Exactly.
they're trying to bring in here.
That's
If you
right.
come to this country, you obey the rules.
Yeah.
As simple as that. You don't make your rules and live under your system.
No.
And you can go back in history. You look at the camel trains and whatnot. They were run by Muslims. There's nothing wrong with them. The good ones. You got these other ones that want to do everything their own damn way. No, you either like it or lump it. Get out.
Exactly. And that's what I was fighting for. But in the end, I decided, because I started meeting a lot of Muslims, and as you say, they were good people. There's nothing wrong with them. But, and that's what convinced me in the end that I was going on the wrong track. The only way that we're going to get everybody united is under our Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act 1901. And anybody who doesn't want to live in that doesn't deserve to be in Australia or an Australian. And that, in that case, you're welcome to leave. Go and live in an Islamic country. But if you love Australia, then live under our law, and we'll be very happy to live with you. You can practice your religion as you wish. We've got no problem with that. Same as any Christian wants to practice their religion their way. But when you start breaking our law, that's when I get upset. And that's when a lot of Australians get upset.
If you have chosen the red pill, then there is only one place to host your website. Enlightened hosting, no censorship, domains, hosting, secure. Build your website and get online fast. www.redpillhosting.com.
It's a very simple process. If you come here to get a better life, then you live under our system. Otherwise, if you don't like it, get out. It's simple.
Right. Dick, I think we've covered just about everything that we wanted to cover in this series.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to mention?
No, I think we're pretty right. Oh, just one other thing.
Are you interested in podcasts that uncover the truth? Tune into Widdershins podcast. Straight from science fiction, we uncover the technologies being developed right under our noses. We bring to you the world's leading scientists, engineers, and experts to discover just how far away these things really are from becoming our reality. www.widdershinspodcast.com.
We had a referendum, the referendum of 1977. Now, just remember, this referendum is done with a Governor-General that's owned by the political party. So the writ for the referendum is not valid anyway. But this is a very cunning system that the political parties did, right? They changed the Constitution because in section 15, casual vacancies, this section has been totally changed to allow political parties to make decisions within the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act as proclaimed and gazetted to bring in Queensland and with its unicameral parliament, political parties. What the system was, the question of the referendum was an act to alter the Constitution so as to ensure, so far as practical, that a casual vacancy in the Senate is filled by a person of the same political party as the Senate chosen by the people for the balance of the term. In other words, if somebody pulls out of the Senate halfway or wherever, that political party can put another one in there.
Without a vote.
Without a vote. But the thing is, they've got the word political party into the Constitution.
I remember something, yeah, okay.
So this is, they're as low as, but at any rate, this is, they've just slowly got around things.
Right.
All through the back door.
Right. So in other words, they haven't actually had a proper referendum. And so everything they've done there is completely unlawful.
Yeah.
Null and void.
Yeah, it's just the Senate is, that referendum's wiped out because it's done, as I said, under a Governor General owned lock, stock and barrel. And I don't know whether you go into, what's his name, Senator Heffernan, with the pedophiles, whether they're involved in that, I don't know. But you've got to start wondering why a Governor General, we haven't had a proper one, hasn't stood up and said, hey, what the hell's going on here? That's the Queen's proclamation or commission. Why aren't I under that commission? Why have you taken the signet off of that commission? In Queensland, we did exactly the same thing. We put the governor in, and they put him in under the public seal of the state. Now, they created that public seal of the state in 1979. Privately, it was under that seal and copyrighted to them. It's got nothing to do with us. But they put that public seal of the state, which is for the executive government, they put that over the commission, removing the signet. Then you go down a bit further and keep reading through it. They have to take the governor out that's already in there. So he comes out, raw sign, manual and signet. So they've taken the seal off of that and put it down there. And here's the Queen's authority getting chucked out the door.
Well,
it's all there. All you got to do is open your eyes.
Well, as more and more people wake up now and they're starting to realise that there's something very stinking wrong in this country, in the political system, we're starting to stand together and unite under common law. And that's all we have to do, is get back to our common law, our Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act, 1901. Visit the website, commonlawcourtoz.org. Go and have a look and sign up to join an assembly, or better still, volunteer to start an assembly in your community. Thanks, Dick.
Please print it out. It's only 22 pages. Please print it out and read it.
You're talking about the Constitution?
Yeah.
Yep. Print out the Constitution, read it, read it, read it, read it, because it's very simple to understand, but we need to get it up here. All right, mate. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Pleasure to have you again.
Yeah.
Australia is our country, strong and brave and free. Let's not let it slip away by too much apathy. Remind ourselves that we have got the greatest land of all. Everything that man could want right here at our back door. Our government, what have you done? Shame, oh shame on you. Foreign ownership, you've sold us out, betrayed us through and through. Our foreign debt climbed up and up, unemployment hasn't dropped. The recession that we had to have, I wonder will it stop? Come on, stand up and fight for this land. Stand up, it's time to lend a hand. One for all and all for one. It's how this battle will be won. Come on, stand up and fight for this land. Our flag, our constitution, I like the human heart, pumping blood around the body to each and every part. If the heart stops beating, the body can't survive. The same will happen to Australia if we lose our flag. The Anzacs once our saviors, now we're turning weak. What happened in these brief few years to make us all so weak? They made the